Okay, hello guys. A long time no see. I've been posting a lot on my reels, you may have seen, but not so much long form videos because they just take so long to record. And reels just get you more views, like let's be honest. But I prefer long form videos. And so welcome to my new kitchen. We have moved and I'm bringing you in for the hardest of baking challenges that I'm going to attempt today and tomorrow. And that is croissants. Croissant. This, of course, is the recipe by Claire Saffitz in NYT Cooking. And yeah, so it is Saturday morning, 8 a.m. I want to serve these early afternoon on Sunday. And I have things getting out to room temp. I'm going to measure out my ingredients. And we're going to start by making the dough, which is called a Détrempe, something like that in French. And then we're gonna make the butter block and we're gonna do our folds today. We're gonna incorporate the butter and make our layers. And then we'll come back tomorrow to roll them out, proof them, and bake them. So let's go. Okay guys, so we're gonna start with the Détrempe, which is the dough, and we're measuring everything by grams, and I cannot express it enough how important it is. I'm going to add some commentary here, but I would encourage you for really in-depth details, watch Claire's video, but I hope this gives you a perspective of what somebody else making it who's not Claire Saffitz looks like. So, okay, the Détrempe should look sort of like this, like cauliflower when you're done with it. It's milk and water at room temp, otherwise dry ingredients. So mix that. And then you're gonna mix in some butter. Now I'm using unsalted Kerrygold here. You really don't need a lot because most of the butter comes obviously from the butter pat and the lamination. And I used two types of butter. Kerrygold unsalted here, and then I used Polgra for the butter block. Claire uses Kerrygold for both, but I didn't. Anyway, so here's the Détrempe after the butter. It's really soft and fluffy, not sticky at all, and you can form it into, you want to like create some tension there so that you can slice it like an X right there, and then you're gonna cover it and proof it, but you cut it so that it more easily ends up being a square, which is what you're gonna want. This is creating your butter block. Now, I'd recommend cutting your butter into smaller pieces. I just had like a whole stick of butter in there and I was beating it. And guys, it's loud. Atticus was a little distressed by it. This part is really loud. But this is when the precision begins. I mean, we already had precision with measuring out our ingredients, but this is when your ruler comes in, and you will see me use this ruler for this entire video. So I'm measuring exactly 8 inches, a perfect square of butter. You're gonna roll it out. It's going to slowly get bigger and bigger. You need to continue making it 8 inches. So yeah, this took a while. Remember that it's okay if your butter gets soft here. It actually helps it. When you really don't want it to get soft is when you're actually making the lamination. You don't want it to get soft when it's in your dough. And see how uneven it is? Like you can tell where the big stick of butter is. So anyway, you want it to be the same thickness all throughout the butter block. So this is me finishing it out, trying to make it flat. Once you get the parchment paper really precise, you're gonna be able to push the butter into all of the corners with your rolling pin. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay, our dough has risen. It has had a bulk fermentation in the fridge, and now it's time to lock in the butter pat. So this is when stakes get high, because once the butter is in, we cannot let it get too hot. Otherwise, it's all gonna melt out when we bake the croissants. So this is go time. Okay, so I had proofed my Détrempe for about an hour and a half until it was 1.5 size. And then I let it bulk ferment in the fridge for about, I think it was 5 or 6 hours. Again, here is my trusty ruler. You want this to be a square with this, which the slicing helps with. But basically this is the beginning of making sure that your Détrempe is also in a perfect, well, not a perfect square, but that it has really sharp sides. And then after you let that cool, you're gonna start rolling it out to do the lamination, to what we're calling locking in the butter. So you wanna make sure that the width of your Détrempe is slightly bigger
like wider than your butter block. So you can see me here, and I had to roll it out a little bit more a couple times, making sure that I have a little bit of hangover so that when I leave the butter, I'm able to lock it in. So this is me after I folded the dough over the top. You want it to have like enough on each side that you can fold it in. And then you pinch around all of the sides and in the middle so that the butter, like we said, it's locked in, right? So you can see there how I folded it in. I have a seam down the middle and then seams on the sides that I'm pinching in together. Now you're going to beat your butter again, and we do this technique a lot. You don't want to smush the butter. So even here when I'm rolling it out, Claire talks about instead of thinking of a force downwards and creating friction between the surface and at this point, the laminated dough, you're gonna push outwards. So just keep that in mind. Because we don't want to smush all the layers. So at this point we have dough, butter, dough, right? So we have one layer, and what we're about to do is just to multiply those layers. So I'm slicing off the ends to make them even, and you can see, I'll hold up here, you can see dough, butter, dough, right? So you can see that we have just one layer there. Trim off the other side, and then we're creating what you call the book. So you're going to fold the ends in together like you're sort of making a book, and then fold them over the top like I'm about to do here. And so this is a double fold. So basically at this point, we've quadrupled the number of butter layers in our dough. Then you're going to wrap it up. You're going to put it in the freezer for 20 minutes and then in the fridge for an hour. And then you're going to start this. So now I'm rolling it out again, and this is a letter fold. So I'm going to be folding it in thirds on top of each other. After that, you're going to roll it out you're going to put it in the freezer and fridge again. So that's about another hour and a half. And then roll it out as closely as you can to your day 2 measurements, which I think is like 17 by 14. Mine resisted me a little bit. So I listened to it. I was like, that's fine. I came back in day 2 and I rolled it out a little bit more. Then I marked every 4 inches. You cut down and then you cut diagonal. So cutting down gives you 4 big squares, and then cutting diagonal gives you 8 of these triangles. Trim the bottom and kind of stretch it out so you have a long isosceles triangle. And yeah, give it a stretch. I think I could have stretched it out even more, to be honest. And then you're just gonna gently push it so it rolls over on itself. Give it a little tap like I did there, because that'll help it stick to its point. You wanna make sure it's resting on its point. I had the other triangles in the fridge and would just pull them out to roll them and then put them back in the fridge, because again, I wanted to be super careful that the butter and the dough wasn't getting too warm. So now let's talk about proofing. You're gonna proof these gently covered in plastic wrap. You wanna make sure they don't have resistance when they're trying to grow. Take a picture of them before they go in so you can judge for, about how much they've grown as they're proofing. And my oven has a proofing setting, but it sits between 85 and 90 degrees, and butter starts to melt at 82 degrees. So I knew that wasn't good enough. Proofing overall took about 3.5 hours, so more than it said in the recipe. And you just need to be patient here. I did the skillet trick. So like Claire said in the video, get a skillet, get water simmering and put it in the oven. And because it was taking so long, I actually had to do it a couple times. But again, making sure it never went above 75 degrees. Here I've taken some, it's an egg and some heavy cream, and I'm gently brushing it over the flat parts of the croissant. This is really important because if you brush it over the sides, you're going to seal the layers together. And so not only will they not grow and become as beautiful, it'll also push the butter out. So that's why I'm using my finger here and not a pastry brush, because I had to be so precise. I even went in with my pinky on some of the parts. So you want that egg wash, but you really want to make sure that you're not sealing in the croissants. This is them after 3.5 hours of immense patience. You can see they're puffy, you can see the separated layers, and they're jiggly. And then I baked them, you guys, and they were so gorgeous. I did have a little bit of butter leakage, but as you can tell, not a ton, and they stayed super light and fluffy. This was so amazing. You want to aim for a honeycomb structure, and that's literally what this is. I gasped when I saw this. It's perfection.
You guys, okay, we're back. That was long, but oh my gosh, I feel like I nailed it. They're gorgeous. We had some butter leakage in the oven, which I feel like I was kind of like if I'm gonna cry over leaked butter, then you just like shouldn't be doing lamination at all. Because they still turned out beautiful. And in the New York Times video, Claire's butter melts out. So I'm like, okay, I feel vindicated. It has a gorgeous honeycomb structure. There are some bigger air pockets, but also I've been like messing around with this guy and he's been out for a couple hours. Anyway, overall beautiful honeycomb. You can see the spiral. I was wondering, is it overproofed because there's some bigger holes, but I don't think so. I also didn't cut into the most beautiful one. So some of them, like this one, are taller. So like, yeah, anyway, I think they're beautiful. They took a little bit longer to prove, but just wait for the signals. You cannot rely on, it should prove for about 2.5 hours. Never. You have to know what proved dough looks like. In this case, jiggly croissants. In others, it's a poke test. But yeah, I think this was totally worth it. I think I'm feeling empowered next weekend to try Queen Amands, which if you don't know, they're like croissants, but basically with sugar. So we'll see. But this was such a great experience because it turned out so well. I would have been very sad if it didn't. But this was so fun. So thanks for coming along on the ride, and I'll see you next time. Bye.